Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Linking Happiness to Corporate Productivity. I'm Mark Southern, WPA's Sales and Marketing Director. We're really lucky today to have with us Jenny Allen-Smith, who is a transformational coach and is going to guide us through an incredibly interesting topic. There is a growing body of evidence that happy employees give companies that they work for a significant competitive advantage, and I think we all recognise that. Before I hand over to Jenny, because we want to spend as much time as possible with Jenny talking to us, if we can just pop to the next slide, please. There will be time for questions at the end. If anything springs to mind in the next 20-25 minutes, click on the question tab in the window. If the window's not there, click the little white arrow or the red background and it should appear. During the presentation as well, Jenny's going to be using Slido to run some surveys and she'll explain that to you in a second. We're really lucky to have her, so I'm not going to go on. So without delay, Jenny, over to you. Really looking forward to this. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much. Lovely introduction, Mark. Really appreciate that. Hi, everyone. It is such a pleasure to have been invited to join you today to facilitate our session. So linking happiness to corporate productivity with Stretching the City. So thank you for being here. This is your precious 30 minutes. My hope is that this session will be a bit like a deep breath and I will be able to get you started with some new tools, some new ideas of how you can increase the happiness of both you and your teams moving forward. And what I really want to prove to you is that happiness is something that anybody can grow with the right kind of practice. So as Mark said, I'm Jenny. I work as a transformational coach. I'm also a master NLP practitioner. Neuro-linguistic programming is all about the language of the mind. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, but I will refrain from hypnotizing you for today. And I think what's important is that I've worked in HR for plus 20 years without giving away my age. So I want to share with you some tried and tested techniques with you today. I also work as a trainer for Mental Health First Aid England, so I train mental health first aiders across the globe. Essentially, what I would love is for this session to be really interactive, so I invite you to take a moment, just join us over on Slido. The easiest way is to get your handset and scan the QR code on your camera icon, or just open up another tab on your browser and join us at slido.com, and our hashtag is 662-227. The reason I love Slido is it's totally anonymous, so you can share with real psychological safety. You can also use, as Mark said, the Q&A function here, and we'll get to any questions that we can in our limited time together. Afterwards, I will make sure that I respond to all questions in the written follow-up to follow this session. So today's session is all about how can we really make your workplace a happier one. So in this 30 minutes, I want to cover off the secret to happiness. I want to share why it's of critical importance to the workplace. And I really want to inspire you to transform the how of leadership, to create a culture where people flourish, where people love what they do. And as leaders and managers, you are best placed for this. You have the greatest impact on the overall culture of your organization. And my aim is really to equip you to take some action, to begin what I call a process of positive change by discussing some of the essential and some of the cutting edge techniques for deriving the maximum happiness at work. So I invite you to join me over on the Slido. You'll see that the QR code is reposted in the top left hand corner of the screen if you missed it before. I'd just love to know, what does happiness mean to you? And you can enter a word here, or you could enter a phrase, but I'm really interested to see what's your perception, because long before researchers started to study happiness scientifically, different cultures, different philosophers, different spiritual leaders developed their own notions of what constituted a good, happy life. And I'm really interested in yours. And I can see some wonderful descriptions coming across here on the Slido. By the way Slido works is the bigger the answer, the more of you have populated that exact response there. So we've got contentment. I'm so happy you've said that, because I'm going to come back to that as a key theme of happiness. Love, peace, feeling content, fun, positivity. Oh, I love this. Hearing my kids laugh. Love that one. Energized. Health and peace, what a lovely word, peace. Someone else saying sunshine. Time, yes, time with family and friends. Someone just had a large glass of wine, I hear you. Feeling confident, yes. Being in nature, there's so much evidence around how nature is linked to happiness. Brilliant input there. Being recognised for what we do. Calmness, hold that thought, I'm going to come back to that. So we can see there's a whole array of wonderful descriptors here of happiness and what it means to you. Now, in her 2007 book, The How of Happiness, Sonia Lyubomirsky elaborates, and she describes happiness here, as I have on the slide, as this experience of joy, contentment, of the positive well-being, combined with the sense that one's life is good and meaningful and worthwhile, replicating lots of those words there that you so kindly shared on the Slido. And if we really look into that, so you've got kind of hedonic happiness. So hedonic happiness is really defined as the pleasant feelings that you experience when you get what you want. And then eudaimonic happiness really refers to the meaning that we feel in life. And essentially, we all possess the raw ingredients for happiness, because at its root, if we really think about it, happiness is a feeling, isn't it? And like any feeling, it's the result of the action of various chemicals that are moving all the time through the brain and the body. And technically, happiness is the result of chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins. As long as you are physically capable of producing this incredible cocktail of chemicals, then I think the potential for happiness absolutely exists. But what stops you? So what stops you from producing these chemicals and feeling all the happiness that you desire? Essentially, the stresses and strains of everyday life, that's clearly a part of the answer. But despite what you might think, you don't actually need all of these stresses to disappear in order to feel happy. In fact, not only is that unnecessary, it's impossible, isn't it? So if getting rid of all of our stresses and strains is not the secret to happiness, then what is, I hear you ask? And I think some of the cleverest words that I have read on happiness are by the psychologist, Dr. Professor Daniel Nettle. And he says that happiness stems mainly not from the world itself, but from the way that people address the world. This is one of the few things in life that you can work on directly, because what it's about making internal, not external changes. Happiness is really something that anyone can grow with the right kinds of practice. And why is it so important that we have happy colleagues at work? Well, I'm hoping that you can see here that the statistics kind of speak for themselves, but really happiness leads to success. Most people think that if they can become successful, then they will be happy. But recent discoveries in psychology and in neuroscience show that this formula is actually backwards, because happiness fuels success. It's not the other way round. When we're positive, our brains are more motivated, we're more engaged, we're more creative, we're energetic, we're resilient, we are more productive. And again, it has been shown that companies who engage their staff are more successful, whether that is measured in customer satisfaction, in innovation, in productivity, or in solid profitability and growth in share value. But here's the main benefit for me. Right, studies show that happy people even live longer. So as if you needed convincing as a reason why, there you go. Now, what I would like to do, I'd love to invite you just for a moment to reflect. Bring to mind an occasion, if you will, when you were working and you were working at your absolute best. And then if you could join me back on the Slido, I'd love for you just to select one answer only, please. The number one factor that led to your success. Now, was it a time when you were well paid, or you were challenged, or you were trusted and given freedom and autonomy to do your job, or you felt a sense of purpose, or of course, something else entirely? And I'm just going to give you a couple more moments. to vote here, and this is not a surprise to me what I'm seeing here. And obviously let's recognize that happiness and satisfaction are obviously subjective concepts, aren't they? But I think from the studies we can definitely see some common themes, and we can see them coming through here. So this is no surprise to me that so far at the top we've got you were trusted and given freedom, and you felt a sense of purpose. Now, Indeed measures workplace happiness as part of its global workplace happiness score. And so far, Indeed have received more than 170,000 responses in the UK, giving data on more than 1,800 organisations. Now, what this study does is it offers us unique insights into what makes people happy in the workplace. And the study found that the factors such as purpose and autonomy, where you felt trusted and given freedom, are the biggest drivers of happiness in the workplace, much more significant than pay. So interestingly, our little survey here has shown exactly the same result. And this really lines up to recent research, particularly by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. So Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, in his 2022 study of core happiness, uses this brilliant analogy of a three-legged stool. And you can find this in his brand new book, Happy Mind, Happy Life, which I cannot recommend highly enough. It's absolutely brilliant. And he talks about this three-legged stool, and we need all these three things: alignment, control, contentment. And interestingly, you mentioned all of those in the earlier Slido. We need all of those to feel core happiness. Now, alignment is when our inner values and our external actions line up. So what I mean by that is the person that we want to be and the person that we were actually being to the outside world, they are one and the same. So that's one leg of the stool. So how can we encourage alignment in the workplace where people feel like they can bring their whole selves and their true selves to work? Now add to that control. So do we feel a sense of agency in our lives and in our work? Do we feel a sense that the world around us is predictable and safe? So relating that to the workplace, how can we give team members some control, some more autonomy at work, showing that we trust them and really giving them freedom? And then I was so pleased to see contentment coming up so large on the Slido earlier. Do we feel a degree of calm about our life? Do we feel at peace with the decisions that we are making? How can we create this at work? Is it a safe place to learn and to make mistakes without fear of repercussions? Now, the important thing to remember about core happiness is that this isn't a final destination that you will reach one day and then everything will be pure joy forever. This is a journey. I apologise, I'm going to use the J word. It's a journey. The three-legged stool doesn't stay upright all the time for everybody. Some days, of course, will be better than other days, but with regular practice, your core happiness stool can become more stable. So I want to take this methodology and see how we can really practically apply this to the workplace. So practical strategies that ignite employees' happiness, that encourage them to craft more freedom, more purpose into the frame of their jobs, to reach the top of Maslow's very famous triangle, the hierarchy of needs. As a reminder about this hierarchy, at the bottom, you've got your basic survival needs. These are the things that, of course, we need these to be happy. But when we've got them, they don't continue to motivate us and increase our happiness levels anymore. We need more. We need support. We need challenge. We need freedom. We need trust to help us reach the top, self-actualization. So I invite you just to ask yourself honestly for a moment, which end of the pyramid does your organization focus on? Knowing that the very best organizations focus on the very top. So our focus needs to be here. And how do the best organizations do it? So essentially, they encourage people to bring their best and their truest selves to work. This is the alignment leg, really, of the stool. Now, particularly this is effective when we think about onboarding, so onboarding new colleagues into your organisation. Now, a recent study was conducted of 605 new colleagues at Wipro. Now, Wipro is a global leading IT services company. And in the induction for these new colleagues, employees were asked to write about and to share stories of times that they had used their very best characteristics and then to share them with the group. The reason that this is such a brilliant and effective strategy is when we are feeling anxious about meeting new people particularly and fitting in, what we tend to do is that we tend to highlight the parts of ourselves that conform to the group and that fit the expectations of others. And this can be both exhausting and highly stressful. The best sales intervention alleviates that problem by sharing their personal stories at the very start of their working relationship. The new hires felt like they were able to express themselves more fully by showing their colleagues their most valued behaviours, their most valued traits. They were able to feel like their best selves from the get-go. And when we really think about this concept of best self, just remember that a self is just a story. It's a story that we tell ourselves. It's not objective. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but it is very real in the sense that the story affects how we act and how others respond to us. If we change the story that we tell ourselves, we change our behaviours. So the more our colleagues know who we are when we're at our best, the more likely we can feel ourselves, really feel ourselves at work. So another angle similar to this is to get people to focus on their strengths. Now, just as a fish doesn't know that it is wet, we don't always know our strengths because they just seem so natural and so normal to us. Our signature strengths don't seem like a big deal to us, but they mean so much often to other people. So studies of this show it's more powerful to learn about your best self from others compared to just thinking about it yourself. So research shows that when people identify and they use their unique strengths, they report feeling more alive, fundamentally happier with their life. Now, in one study, psychologist Martin Seligman randomly assigned one set of participants to learn about their signature strengths, and they were asked to use one of their top strengths in a new way every day for 1 week. Now, compared with the control group that didn't do this, people in the signature strengths condition actually reported having fewer depressive symptoms after just 1 week. That included less headaches, less trouble sleeping, less trouble waking up in the morning. And this is because when people seek and they find and they fulfill what is best, what is unique about themselves, it really does give meaning and direction to their lives. Now, the Gallup Institute looked at a huge data set from millions of employees across the globe. Now, the results showed that the more hours per day adults believe that they use their unique strengths, the more likely they are to report feeling energetic, being happy, smiling and laughing a lot. And in fact, employees who use their unique strengths every day are more than 3 times more likely to report having an excellent quality of life. So on this slide is a great strengths exercise for you to take away. Take it back to your teams, if you will. I really encourage you and them to practice applying your strengths more. And also, I really encourage you to ask someone who you really trust and really respect to answer these questions about you too. So, an interesting policy that I've noticed other organisations are using, so namely Disney and the Make-A-Wish Foundation, they're embracing something in order to really increase happiness and encouraging their employees to invent their own job titles. And the job titles are invented to reflect their own unique values, their own identities, and their unique talents and their strengths. So example job titles that I think have really caught my eye in the past. So the CEO referred to as the Minister of Dollars and Cents, which I really love. And then PR managers referenced as magic messengers. And I think this just really made me reflect, could such a minor change, which didn't cost any money, actually really affect employees' attitudes and behaviours, and most importantly, their happiness levels? Now, 85% of employees in both organisations surveyed said that the self-reflective titles had helped to reduce their levels of exhaustion. 65% said the self-reflective titles let them bring their own personal identity into the organisation. And another theme that I noticed when looking at the employees' comments, it's described how the titles kind of opened people up. It helped change the culture within the organisation to encourage information sharing and to encourage unique ideas. So psychological safety, therefore, is a key theme here, opening the doors for people to view one another as human beings, not merely as job holders. And what it really did was it kind of nudged colleagues to focus on the more meaningful and the intrinsically motivating elements of their job, which they might otherwise be very prone to lose sight of, therefore helping them to feel genuinely happier. What the study really suggests is that we have to help people identify the me in we, and this allows employees to really have a distinct identity within the team. This allows, by the way, for better diversity too, because good leaders know that you need to build teams comprising of people with different backgrounds, different skills, different perspectives. And if team members aren't willing to express themselves and their viewpoints, then quite frankly, the team will not reap the rewards of diversity. So we can really help employees to reframe their work's purpose in a way that is meaningful and is personal to them. And what I'm really referring to here is the why. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? When we personally understand and we believe in the why of our actions, we definitely have greater happiness and resilience and stamina when the going gets tough. The very best thing I think that leaders can do is offer our employees an immersive experience so that they can really witness the impact of their work on others. And you can really help them to experience purpose rather than issuing purpose, which doesn't work. And Microsoft have nailed this. So in the past, Microsoft account managers would have talked to their clients kind of now and again, but under a new working model, they get out into the field. They experience the client's problems firsthand. They help them to devise solutions. Now, one account manager spent a week out on the street with police officers, really trying to understand when and where remote data could help them. Another account manager spent 2 days in a hospital to observe firsthand and really understand what would it mean to become paperless here. Now, the immersion experience proved enlightening for people. They came back reporting feeling lit up. They had witnessed the why of their work. It encouraged them also to develop new ideas. And as a result, I think they were much better able to develop deeper, more personal narratives about the why they do what they do. So this is the power of purpose. It makes life feel better. So the key management question becomes, how can I give my team first-hand experiences that allow them to personalize the meaning of their work? And what do all of these strategies have in common? Doesn't take much to make this happen, not much money anyway. What it really takes is this new mindset. You can help your employees to articulate, to project, to use their best selves at work. And I love, by the way, the concept of pre-approval. Get out of the way as managers. Approve the idea, approve the concept before they come up with it. Give them the parameters, give them the budget. You come up with a solution, don't show me. Consider what that would be like. Scary, liberating, and much more free time for you too. So really, as leaders, you have a chance to make life more meaningful, more worth living for the people that you lead. You can get good at happy. Your team members can get really good at happy. Happiness is not some impossibly distant destination or a state of mind that is reserved for the privileged. It is trainable, it is accessible for everyone. So I think now we'll take some questions.
One that's come through, thank you, Jenny. One that's come through from Slido, start at the start, and it's how significant, or I'm going to paraphrase it, how significant is income linked to happiness?
Okay, that's a really interesting question, Mark. So with income, I am not saying that income has no bearing on happiness, because it absolutely does, but it's up to a point. So what the research behind this suggests is that yes, money may well boost happiness, especially when it lifts people out of impoverished circumstances. But beyond that, its effects are limited. So once people kind of get past what you call the comfortable zone and the money worries have gone, what the studies show is that there seems to be very little change in happiness levels. So science suggests that the relationship really, therefore, between the two is quite limited. Yes, more money can increase happiness to a certain level, but then definitely its effects taper off.
Really interesting, and of course we all kind of recognise the importance of money. We have had another question.
On mute. There's a question that has come in on the GoTo platform, Jenny, about is this the message about happiness getting through to business leaders, especially with the sort of mental health being highly topical at the moment, and what's the role of sort of PMI and benefits advisors? So whilst Mark gets his sound back on, there's one question for you.
Yeah, so I do believe, and of course I'm an optimist, but I do believe, Charlie, that the message is getting through. I've seen a huge change in working culture. I'm sure many of you have too. Following the pandemic, a huge emphasis on mental health supports. I support a lot of organisations with mental health training, support for managers, all sorts of workshops about happiness and well-being. I think the key point to this is that we really need this to be led from the top. It needs to form a key part of your well-being strategy. And actually, it's about role modelling that and really remembering that you as leaders, we cast a shadow, don't we, as leaders? We have this role of responsibility. Be aware of the shadow that you cast, but also just encourage our people to embrace the full spectrum of human emotion. That's always my message in training. You know, our feelings are there. It's called feelings for a reason. Feelings are there to be felt, aren't they? So what I don't want to come across from this session is that we have to expect people to feel happy all of the time, because actually that isn't real life, and that's actually not the healthiest way to live either, because we have to embrace the full spectrum, the full rainbow of human emotions. If something sad happens to somebody, then embrace that, embrace the feeling of being sad. But is it getting through in answer to your question? I think it is. Of course, there's so much scope for improvement, but you lead the way with that messaging for sure. But great question, thank you.
I'm really sorry, I think my audio dropped out, but thankfully one of my colleagues was able to jump in there, so I did get half the answer to the question, but you can tell me after this the full piece. I think actually we're kind of running out of time now. I'm really grateful, Jenny, for your time. Hugely interesting topic. Thank you to everyone who's attended today. I hope you find it interesting and as useful as I did. Before you go, we will be circulating recording this and a write-up of this webinar, so you can take it away, consider it after the weekend. As you log out, there'll be a very quick service. It'll take about 10 seconds, and it just helps us with feedback on how we can improve things for the next time. And on that subject, our next webinar is going to be in the 4th of July. It's going to be on the topic of stress, and the invitation is going to follow in the next few days. Thank you again to Jenny. Thank you so much for what was a fascinating topic. I know you cantered through it, but it was incredibly interesting. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you on the 4th of July.